1999, and there was this one day that I went out to the woods with some friends to play Game Boys. But what I remember was it was a quiet spot close to an abandoned amusement park. And everyone knew that the Ferris wheel there was haunted because it was always moving really slow in the night. That's why I don't think anyone used that picnic area, because it was literally next to this Ferris wheel that burned down in 1987. People say you could still hear the carnival music at night. If you just stood there and listened closely, it'd be so easy to believe it too, because the old rusted metal Ferris wheel creaked in the wind, sometimes faster than others. But anyway, there was 4 of us, all around 16, 17 years old. And it was one of those perfect fall days where you can still wear your favorite summer shorts and not feel cold. We were all wearing baggy jeans and big clunky shoes, and we each had our Walkman strapped to our bodies, blasting various Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears songs. And we thought that our Game Boys would keep us busy for at least an hour or 2. But what we got instead was an afternoon that we would never forget. We chose a nice spot under a big old oak tree, and we took turns playing backgammon and Tetris while we ate our Lunchables and Pringles. But after about half an hour, our Game Boys started acting weird. Each of them showed static and blurry-faced people that none of us recognized. Then one of my friends, Billie Eilish, paused his game and looked at me. "Hey, do you guys see that?" he asked, pointing to his screen. I looked over and it wasn't static anymore. It was a live feed of me sitting under the tree, eating a ham and cheese sandwich. Then he turned his Game Boy so that his screen was facing me, and he did the same thing. I stared back at him, confused and scared. I remember taking a bite of my sandwich, and then it cut to a black screen. Then it came back to me eating my sandwich again, except this time I saw my own terrified face staring back at me, blinking. I tried to speak, to scream, to do anything, but I couldn't make a sound. I tried to turn my Game Boy off, but it wouldn't shut down. It was like my Game Boy was trying to record me. But how? We didn't have any camera connected. So I tried to smash the screen, but nothing happened. It just kept showing my face along with everyone else's. Then it cut to a black screen again. And when it came back, I saw myself screaming, reaching out at the screen, trying to get away, but I couldn't. And that's when I heard it. The faint tune of a calliope played from somewhere deep within the woods. I whipped my head around, searching for the source of the sound, but I didn't see anything. Billie Eilish suddenly stood up, his Game Boy clattering to the ground. His face was pale and he was shaking. "I gotta go," he said, scrambling to pick up his Game Boy. "Me too," I said, equally scared. "Let's just go." I grabbed my things, and we all ran out of there without saying a word. We didn't stop running until we were at my car. I remember leaning against the hood of my car, hyperventilating, thinking that I was going to throw up. But I didn't want to let my friends see that I was scared, so I stayed silent and I pretended that everything was fine, and they both did the same. None of us said a word as I drove us home, and it wasn't until we were all sitting in our individual rooms, safe and sound, that we realized just how messed up that day had been. That's when we remembered the last part. That's what made this story the worst. When we turned our Game Boys on the next day, hoping that maybe it was just a glitch, all of our Game Boys showed the same exact scene, but different angles. It was the 3 of us sitting under that tree, eating our lunch, except now shadowy hands were reaching toward us. like grasping fingers creeping closer and closer, but we couldn't do anything. And then the fourth side of the screen showed our faces frozen in a silent scream. We tried to move, to run, but we couldn't. We were stuck in a horror movie with no escape. I mean, I know this sounds unbelievable, but the stories people tell about abandoned places are true. Places hold energy, and sometimes those energies are attached to objects. And I think that that's exactly what happened to us. It was like we somehow got sucked into the screen of our Game Boys. I mean, I know this sounds unbelievable, but the stories people tell about abandoned places are true. Places hold energy, and sometimes those energies are attached to objects. And I think that that's exactly what happened to us. It was like we somehow got sucked into the screen of our Game Boys. That's why I don't think anyone ever goes to that picnic area. I mean, I know this sounds unbelievable, but the stories people tell about abandoned places are true. Places hold energy, and sometimes those energies are attached to objects. And I think that that's exactly what happened to us. It was like we somehow got sucked into the screen of our Game Boys. That's why I don't think anyone ever goes to that picnic area. Ever since that day, I never played Game Boy near an abandoned place again. I mean, I know this sounds unbelievable, but the stories people tell about abandoned places are true. Places hold energy, and sometimes those energies are attached to objects. And I think that that's exactly what happened to us. It was like we somehow got sucked into the screen of our Game Boys. That's why I don't think anyone ever goes to that picnic area. That day is still burned into my brain. I remember the smell of the woods, the crisp autumn air mixed with the sweet smell of burning leaves. And it was also the faint smell of burnt popcorn from the abandoned amusement park that permeated through the trees. That smell alone gave me goosebumps. So fast forward to 2017, a family decided to visit the abandoned amusement park to take some pictures for their YouTube channel. They walked through the ticket booth area and the entrance to the main gate. They strolled down the boardwalk, which was in terrible shape. I mean, it was completely covered with graffiti. The paint was chipped and flaking off, and the once vibrant colors were now dull and lifeless. And they explored the old-timey photo booth area, which was full of cobwebs and trash. Then they headed toward the Ferris wheel, and as they approached it, they could hear chains dragging metal moans. They finally reached the base of the Ferris wheel, which was covered in graffiti. The red paint was peeling away, revealing the rusted metal underneath, and they walked inside the wheel, which was pitch black and filled with spiders' webs. It was clear that nobody had been here in years. As they climbed up the stairs to the platform, they could feel the vibrations beneath their feet. And when they reached the top, they found a box filled with old cameras, film, and a small Game Boy. As soon as they picked it up, the screen flickered to life, showing a black and white video of 4 teenagers sitting in a booth just like this one. But that wasn't the scariest part. The most terrifying thing was that as they watched, the teenagers in the video started to turn their heads and stare directly at the camera. Their eyes were wide and their mouths were open in silent screams. And then the video cut to black. They quickly turned the Game Boy off and threw it back into the box, slamming the lid shut. They backed away from the Ferris wheel as fast as they could, not daring to look back. They ran through the park, dodging over the fallen debris until they reached the exit. They didn't stop running until they were far away from the abandoned amusement park. When they finally looked back, they could see the Ferris wheel in the distance, silhouetted against the setting sun. But that wasn't the only thing that they saw. In the video footage that they had taken earlier, when they reviewed it, they saw something that made their blood run cold. Throughout the entire video, they saw the faint outline of a burnt child standing behind them, watching them the entire time. And then, in one of the shots, they saw the shadow of a hand reaching out to grab them. And that's why they never went back to that abandoned amusement park again. Thanks for watching. Never play near abandoned places.